welcome to Living Ardently. I'm your host, Adrian Giraldi, and we are here with another guest for our second episode of our Covid Collabs. And this one's really cool because it's international. We'll get to introducing her in just a second, so yeah, let's get into it. All right, so today's guest, super cool, awesome, is from Australia. She works for the youth office in the Diocese of Parramatta over in Australia. She's a basketball fanatic, a phenom. Please follow her at Qwayne Guevara, and please welcome my guest, Qwayne Guevara.
Hello, how you going, Adrian?
Good, man. Good to see you. Good to finally get to chat with you. We've been talking on social media for a bit, and I believe I was following you, I think almost a year now, but I didn't really know who you were outside of that she's a Filipino girl, I think, and that was it. I didn't even know you were in Australia, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, I don't think my social media gives off where my location is, so.
Right. I just remember seeing way back then, like, you were posting some clips of basketball. I was like, whoa, this girl can ball. That's awesome. Like, I love seeing basketball in general, but it's even cooler when I can see a girl ball. And, like those videos of, there's like this video of this girl and there's like, I guess her brother or like a boyfriend or something. They're like going one-on-one and she was killing him. And it was like, oh, this is great. I love this. This is good content.
Well, I have a younger brother who, so we both love basketball and we sort of grew up with basketball. And I remember the day that he started beating me. He's a younger brother of mine. He was 2 years younger. And the day he started beating me, I was like, okay, it's all over. I'm never going to be as good as he is. So that really killed my vibe back then. But I think now, it's just become such a big part of my life. So I'm pretty bummed that I'm not able to play basketball at the moment.
Right. And we're during the time of recording all this, we're still obviously in this global pandemic. It's not just America. I mean, it didn't start in America. It's affecting everywhere. You guys got hit, double the amount this year. It's been hard, right? I mean, and you're a basketball fan, so you got hit like 3 times. Really. You got the fires, and then you had Kobe, and now you have this pandemic. So how are you surviving with everything going on there?
Yeah, it's crazy times, really. But I think you're right. I think everyone is struggling to figure this whole reality out. And while the fires was something that we thought was the worst, I think in general you just sort of can't predict what's going to come. So when COVID had hit our shores, it was a big surprise to everyone, and the government really acted quickly to try and figure things out. So
That's
hats
great.
to them for trying to make it work.
Praise God, that's awesome. I mean, obviously we didn't know the gravity here in America, what was going on in Australia with the fires. We thought like it was just, in California we have forest fires, like they have brush fires all the time. So we're like, oh, okay, it's like no big deal. Then I saw a map and like of Australia and where the fires are. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like almost the entire continent. Right.
Well, I think it was great. You're totally right. Like there was a particular section, especially around Sydney, and if you go north and a bit south of that, it was just ridiculous the amount of land that it was covering, and so the whole entire city, stretching far beyond just the dense part of Sydney.
Right.
There was smoke literally everywhere for a number of weeks, so it was very hard to go outside, and it was keeping a lot of people indoors already.
How was doing ministry during the time? Like, did the churches like shut down immediately? How did that look like?
I think the diocese was generally quite aware and careful about the sort of messaging that would go out, and none of our churches were closed because of it. But I think people definitely, particularly those who are quite vulnerable or susceptible to issues with the lungs, they probably tended towards staying home. But in ministry in general, we just tried to find other ways. And I think particularly around that time, I think it was Christmas that we were hit quite hard. Things were still going ahead, and a lot of our things are actually indoors. We didn't have a lot of bigger diocesan events outdoors at that time because they usually happen in the middle of the year. So we were okay in that sense.
Cool. Yeah, it's just like, it's really, you don't get to really sympathize. I don't think people are able to sympathize well until they realize, like, either they know somebody in the situation, or if they actually look at a map and see who's being affected, or you start seeing numbers, right? So I feel like people, even with COVID especially, like, they don't understand the gravity until they start looking at the numbers and like, oh, like, globally, that's how many people, so it's just like, it's kind of, I mean, I find it comical for people who have, the kind of people that have been quoting The Office, and Dwight, she was like, we need another plague, and then we got it, and now they're like, oh, just kidding, and like, this is your fault. This is your fault.
I think that's so funny. It's crazy. I mean, like, I'm really into, this is so random, but I really love conspiracy theories, just to entertain sort of, ideas of where all of this have come from. But the funny thing about realizing how big and how much people have been affected is the flip side of, oh my gosh, it's actually a little bit of a gift that we have had to slow down and had to actually figure out who we are in the midst of all this. So I think it's really taught us a lot, especially me, I guess.
Right. No, absolutely. I was in my young adult group. We were chatting. We did a Zoom with like 30 of us. Well, maybe that's an exaggeration, but like, we were like chatting about, like, this is a gift. Like, we learned to, like, guys kind of teaching us, like, hey, you're abiding on, like, you're kind of abiding in different things. How about you, let me strip you of these things. I mean, that's not his intention. It was like, but that's how he's working through it, right? Yeah. Most of our hearts, he's like trying to take this situation and show him, like, hey, look, like, this is an opportunity for you and me to get to know each other more. And so no, it's true. I mean, we just had a young adult sort of Zoom gathering as well last night, and our guest speaker, who's a fairly young priest, sort of slapped us all in the face about this concept of this desire for all of us to want to be busy, even in the midst of even in the midst of having everything stripped away, where we have all this time. And yet we desire so much to want to fill that time with things to do, because we're so used to having everything like going on for us. Yeah, we talked about that too. And then I kind of like, then I was like, well, does it me like using this time to like, work on the podcast kind of like guilt me of that? And she's like, no, well, this is something that you're using for the glory of God, not to be busy. You know what I mean? Like, you are like, this could be something that you enjoy. It's like, just because you enjoy it doesn't mean you need to feel guilty about it, Like, if you enjoy it, but it's bringing glory to the kingdom, then why be guilty? You shouldn't feel guilty. It's just something that, it's not busy work anymore. It's God's work. You're using the time wisely. So, I was like tempted to feel that way. You know what I mean? Like, am I just doing this because I want to be busy? It's like, well, not necessarily, because I'm exhausted. I mean, we were supposed to record like 2 hours ago, and my body just shut down. Like, so I was watching some Star Wars Clone Wars, and I ended up passing out, and I woke up at 10, an hour and 10 minutes after we were supposed to record. I'm like, what is going on? I was thinking about that moment when you had message, and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel sorry for this guy, because like, I know that feeling of waking up and being like, what have I forgotten to do? I was just like, I woke up and I was confused. Like, one of those moments, like, you're just like, it's what's dark outside. On? Is it the next day? Is it morning? Like, it's like 6 a.m. Like, what happened? I was like, did I have any obligations? And I looked at my phone. Oh my gosh, I did. I definitely did. I actually did. Like, I think let me pull up the conversation I sent. Oh crap. You're like, hello. And I was like hey. And I was like, oh crap. You're like, I'm the worst. You said that at 9, and I woke up at 10:50. Oh shit. Actually, when I messaged that and you hadn't answered, I'm like, I hope this guy's all right. Like, I'm pretty sure he was on social media just a few hours ago. Right. I just passed out. It was just asleep. And
You
then
must be so tired.
oh yeah, oh yeah. It's just like you said. We were talking about earlier. Like I just haven't been doing much. And then like I started, because the living person's doing the mile a day in May. So I was like, I'm not gonna run every day like I did last year, or majority of the days like I did last year, but I'm gonna try to like run some days because I haven't ran in a while. I did a Spartan race and then that was it. Like it was like an obstacle course, and it was like,
Oh, cool.
yeah. And then I ran that and I was like, all right, my joints are retired. Like I'm not doing this again.
I'm done. I'm done.
I was like, that was fun. That was a fun challenge, and by fun I mean like it sucked, but but yeah.
Yeah,
So
totally. I'm trying to figure out how do I stay active because we don't have basketball, and usually I play basketball competitively in a local competition 2 times a week.
oh, that's cool.
One with all women, so it's an all women's basketball community. So we started off as youth leaders, and after we got too old for youth ministry, we were like, okay, so we still want to hang out together and journey with each other in the faith. So how do we do that while, and we thought, oh, we'll start a basketball team. Anyway, we've it's grown now, so that's every Tuesday. And on Sundays, I play mixed with guys.
Oh, cool.
And so now that I don't have that, I've signed up to like 2 fitness free trials with this ambition that I'm going to be really committed. Anyway, such a struggle because after the first couple of classes, I was like, I think you're aiming too high and you're not actually realizing that you can't do this.
Like, oh, bless my heart.
Yeah, bless my heart for like giving it a go.
That's so funny. Anyway, I like to start these with a quick game, and we've gotten a bit into the podcast, but we can still play it. We're gonna go ahead and I'll play a game of finish the lyric.
Okay.
So I'm taking popular pop songs, and you're gonna have to finish the lyric. Okay.
Okay.
I'll give you a point if you're able to also tell me where it's from, like who the title of the song. Give you the artist and the song lyric, and then if you're able to give me the song and what follows after, and then the song title, I'll give you 2 points.
Okay. Are you gonna sing the song?
Oh, absolutely not. I'm not gonna.
Okay. Oh, boo.
I am not going to hurt people's feelings.
Okay.
All right. Taylor Swift is a singer.
Yes.
Got a long list of ex-lovers. They'll tell you I'm blank.
I'm not a Taylor Swift fan, but my housemates are. I wish they were here to actually answer this. I got a long list of.
I'll give you options, okay?
Okay.
Awesome, tame, insane, real lame.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go with tame.
Tame. That, my friend, was incorrect.
If this was actually an artist that I listened to and I got that wrong, I'd be very disappointed. But that's okay that I got that one wrong.
That one was, I got a long list of ex-lovers. They'll tell you I'm insane.
Close.
And the song was blank space.
Oh, okay. When my housemates hear this, they're going to kill me because they love Taylor Swift.
That's so great. I can't wait for that. You got to get the reaction live.
I should. They'll be so disappointed.
Right. Britney Spears. Are you familiar with Britney?
Yes, I was also around when she shaved her head. So let's hope that.
I don't know what you were gonna lead with. Like I was also around when, like you were friends with her or something.
We're not close. We're not close.
I wasn't sure where that was leading to, but all right. My blank is killing me. I must confess, I still believe.
My loneliness.
My loneliness. I didn't even give you options. Perfect. You're
That's
correct.
Awesome. That's a very relevant word right now for all of us feeling a little bit lonely.
Especially us extroverts.
Yeah, that's me.
Right, same.
Rough.
All right, so we got the Beatles next. The Beatles.
Oh,
right?
throwing it back. Okay.
You're throwing it back. What's the name of the song before?
Oh, baby, hit me, baby, one more time.
All right, yeah, there you go. So there's 2 points.
Oh,
there.
praise God, I got 2 points.
All right, the Beatles. Yeah, you think you got that something. I think blank. When I'll feel that something, I want to hold your hand. I think blank. I'll give you the options here.
Okay.
Yeah, you got that something. I think you are so fine. You'll understand. You know my plan. You always can.
You'll understand.
Correct. What song?
Yes. I want to hold your hand.
Yeah.
Sweet. Thank the good Lord. Oh gosh, sometimes we surprise ourselves. Okay.
All right, we got Justin Bieber next. Very lyrically rich, okay?
Deep and meaningful.
Like the most intellectual written words ever in pop music.
Yeah.
Let me prepare my heart for this one. Hold on. Let's put ourselves in the presence of the Lord.
Somebody get a guitar. We just need to start this off.
Baby, 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 oh. Like baby, 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 no. Like baby, 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 oh. Thought blank.
Oh no. I'm too distracted by the awkwardness of these lyrics.
I thought we'd last forever. It would never end. You'd always be mine. We'd keep having good times.
Interesting. So where's the blank?
Thought blank. So it's the last thing. Thought we'd last forever. Thought it would never end. Thought you'd always be mine. Thought we'd keep having good times.
I thought it was his song Baby, but I think that's just throwing me off because of the number of times you said baby. So I don't think that's actually the answer.
It is the song Baby.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, dang.
I will still give you that point because you did say it.
Sweet. Okay, so maybe I should sing it, but I'm a little embarrassed to sing it.
Okay, well I'll use that audio to promote the podcast if you do start to sing it.
No, that sucked. I'm gonna have to sing it because I won't get it if I don't.
Okay.
Baby, baby, baby. Oh. I thought that you'll. Oh man, this is bad. Thought that you'll always be mine.
Yes, correct.
Oh, sweet. Paid off to sing.
You got 6 points. You got 6 points. And how's your I got 2 more questions for you. Should I get you to 10 here? How well do you know your Prince?
No, I do not know Prince at all.
I won't do this to you then.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, Taylor Swift's already rough.
Right. How about Aha?
No, I don't. Is that? I don't even know.
I don't know it either. To be frank with you. Oh, I think it's like Take On.
Oh, yeah. Good.
I think that's them.
True.
But I don't know it, so.
You should choose ones you know.
It's just like randomized here, okay?
Oh, gotcha.
Take on me, take me on, I'll be blank.
Gone.
Oh, wow.
I think that's the
right.
answer, right? Okay. I'll tell you the secret to getting that right. Karaoke.
That's awesome.
Not even.
That's fantastic. I love it. All right, how about Spice Girls?
Okay, we can go Spice Girls.
All right. If you want to be my lover, you got to blank. Learn how to love me.
My friends.
There you go. I don't even need to give you that one. What's the song?
Look, 8-year-old self would be very disappointed if I didn't get that one right. So
What's the name of that one?
I think it's it's Wannabe.
Wannabe. Hey, Michael Jackson. You good with Michael Jackson?
I could try Michael Jackson.
Oh man. Okay. Billie Jean is not my lover. She's just a girl who claims that I am the blank. The dad, the papa, the father, the one.
She's just a girl. I am the one?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the name of the song?
Billie Jean. It must
Billie
be.
Jean. There we go.
Oh, goodness.
10 points. We got a winner. Bonus round. Lady Gaga, I want your ugly, I want your blank, I want your everything as long as it's free.
I want your ugly. No.
Your unease, your crazy, your kisses, your disease.
I want your ugly, I want your disease.
Yes. That's very... That's horrible. We don't want that.
No.
Keep your COVID.
I don't want your COVID. No thanks. That song hits different now in these times. So
that did not age well.
Not that song. Oh gosh.
Oh man, that's funny. Oh,
yeah, that was good. Taylor Swift, Letting Me Down.
Taylor Swift was your only incorrect, and you even got the one that I didn't even count against you. Look at you go.
Karaoke.
Speaking of look at you go, where did you go? Where'd my Zoom? I'm one of those people who has so many things open on the computer that it's just like ridiculous. But that's me. That's who I am. Blame me. All right, so why don't you give us a little bit about your? I just punched my mic. Why don't you give us a little bit of a background of your faith? How'd you start? Like, were you born and raised Catholic, or all that stuff? Why don't you give us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my family moved to Australia when I was 1. My brother was born here, but my faith was really a gift given to me from my parents, but particularly my mom. So she, typical, I'm assuming these sorts of moms, Filipino moms, also exist in the States. Very devotional, loves Mother Mary, the Rosary.
Right.
And so growing up, she was always encouraging us as a family to pray. So we'd pray the Rosary often. And I think there was a period of my life where we would pray every night. But, as you grow up and you start to look at the faith from your own perspective and you start asking questions, okay, do I actually believe all of this stuff that is being presented to me? And so I think it was around my teen years where I was really invited to make a decision about my faith, and that was at a youth camp. And so began my journey in youth ministry and leadership in youth ministry. Right. And I think that's really when I started asking the bigger questions about who I am in the eyes of God. So my worth, am I seen? Do I have gifts to offer? And as I continued to journey in leadership in youth ministry, that's when the faith became much more than just sort of this part of my life. It started to become the foundation by which I lived out all the other parts of my life. Even basketball, I saw that as a space for me to grow in virtue.
Cool.
So basketball was, particularly after leadership in youth ministry, the community that began to flourish gave me the opportunities to grow in virtue, because we were in fellowship but also being challenged on the court to practice, different things like not talking back at the ref when you get smacked in the face by another girl. Do you not see?
Starts quoting scripture. Like
the
blind, and you both are blind.
Oh, that's so good. But yeah, so that sort of became my community in a real sense.
Nice.
And because I had this community, I could ask the questions about my faith with other people.
Nice.
And once I began asking these questions, I think I began to see the real gift of friendship, particularly in growing in the faith and striving for holiness.
Yeah.
And I think it's become a real that's become a real goal of mine in youth ministry, my work in youth ministry, and I would say in many other areas of my life, that the friendships that we build that allow us to grow in holiness is actually made possible because of the spaces that we are able to create by giving people opportunities to connect. And so whilst my whole journey has been the Lord pursuing me and really inviting me into a deeper, intimate relationship with him, the more that I guess I felt his mercy and his grace, the more I realized that my life isn't my own and just for myself. So that's when everything else, the things that I did, the things that I would dream about, the projects that I would come across as an opportunity for evangelization or accompaniment with other people, a lot of that has come from the Spirit moving in my life, inviting me outside of myself into friendships with other people. So here I am. I find myself, after many years of trying to figure out where I'm supposed to be, really just trying to take it every day. You know, the classic Saint Therese of Lisieux saying that we should do little things with great love.
Yeah.
I think it's very much true for a lot of us who might feel like we need to be these great saints right now,
Right.
but not realizing that you are really called to just be ourselves. And in that, when we are authentically ourselves, we're actually pretty great, the kind of great that God really wants for us to be.
Right. That's true. That's awesome. I mean, you were in ministry for how many years now?
I would say about 15 years.
Oh wow. So, I mean, as this, are you accounting you as a youth leader, or is it just as people as a part of a core team, or like a leadership as a youth?
I would say I'm counting from the day that I was invited to a youth camp.
Okay. So how about the times, like you were a youth minister before, right? And now you work for the diocese youth office. So how many years have you been in that ministry, like in that form?
Yeah, so my life has gone in different directions. I actually wanted to work as a lawyer for the UN for a big chunk of my life. And so I actually pursued a career in law and practiced law. But before that, while I was studying at law school, I was serving in youth ministry. So it hasn't really left my life. Until I started working as a lawyer, that's when I sort of didn't really have anything to do with youth ministry. So it was in 2016, World Youth Day in Poland.
Oh, wow.
And also the Year of Mercy, where I was really challenged by the Lord to figure out where I was going. And so that from 2017 to now, which is about 3 years in full-time youth ministry, paid employment. So that's been 3 years. But prior to that, I would say
that's awesome.
7 years in sort of grassroots youth ministry.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I mean, ministry in general, I feel like in the Catholic Church doesn't change much, but what does it look like in Australia? Do you find it like a lot of like just youth in general? Are they not being catechized well at home? Are they, what's the Catholic culture there? I mean, obviously the Catholic culture differs from home to home, so it varies, but what does it look like generally over there?
Yeah, generally speaking, I mean, the faith is rich in the communities where it's given the fuel, it's being taken care of, it's being encouraged. In communities that it is rich, it's going really well. But there are definitely areas of our country that it's a mission area. I mean, we still have missionaries who come here from overseas, realizing that there are many others who do not know Jesus, and not just know Jesus in, that's that guy that started that church, but to really intimately know him. There are many that don't. And so even in our work in youth ministry, we're often challenged with the reality of having Catholic schools and also a public school system. And particularly those who are in the public school system, for one, they don't have classes where they get to be exposed to the faith. And where they do, it's once every month, which is scripture classes. And they may not necessarily choose Catholic as their option to go to. So it's growing. I think we're still quite young. As a country, we're only about 200 years old. Sure. And so we have one saint, I'll give her a shout out, Saint Mary MacKillop of the Cross. Yeah. And so the faith is still growing here, but I think the more connected that we've become, particularly with seeing everything that's happening in the States, we're definitely realizing that there's so much more potential for us as youth ministers, or even as a church in general, to really be bold in proclaiming who Jesus is here. Right.
I think it's really cool to see how, like we were talking about in my young adult group the other day, like he said that youth ministry seems, like this pandemic has redeemed the internet for him. Like he didn't really care for it. But really, like, it's beautiful to see how the church has responded and using what the resources that we do have and using it well. Maybe too well, because a lot of people are doing it. But like everyone's going to take advantage, not like in a bad way, but of the opportunity that we do have to kind of make connections with people, to reach out to people, to minister to people, especially in this time that people feel isolated. Like some people, like I live alone practically, so like it's hard, like not having community for being like an extrovert, and so it's really great to have this sense of community amongst a lot of people because of this podcast, because of whatever the case may be, like how many people I've gotten to reach out to, like this entire month of May. I'm like I've recorded with such great people that like I never would have imagined, like if you told me for season 1 this is what I'm going to be doing, like 40 episodes in, and it's a blessing, and it's a great time to see. I enjoy going on social media, on Instagram, and seeing 5 lives going on at the same time, and I just pop into each one of them for like a couple of seconds, for a few minutes or other, and but it's great. They're all great content, so it's like, and the beauty of it is that it's always on the internet. Obviously it's only there for 24 hours, but most of the lives I've seen, people have saved them and posted them later too, so as IGTVs.
Yeah, no, I think you make a really good point, because what I'm really loving about this COVID reality is that it's pushing even not just our generation of youth ministers, but the older generation. I love seeing priests giving this whole stuff a go, particularly when it was just starting and they had like their phones on them and they were just trying to figure out their cameras. And I think that sort of rawness to the faith in responding to this has just been so great to see.
Right. I agree. It's like, it shows us that as big as the church is, we're still in it together.
That's it. Yeah.
So I find it awesome. Like for crying out loud, you're in Australia, I'm in Florida, and we're able to record. And next week I'm recording with, I have an episode with somebody from Malaysia, if that works well. Like it's crazy how how small this world actually is, and that we claim for it to be so big. It is big, but like through community, through the the reach of God, like nothing's too big.
That's it. Yeah, I totally feel that.
Yeah. We got more with Qwayne coming up, and we're gonna take a quick break. So stay tuned for some more stuff. Okay. Have you ever wondered what it takes to start a podcast? I know I used to think that it costs hundreds and thousands of dollars in a studio just to start one, but I was wrong. Literally, all I use for my podcast is a $30 microphone that I got from Amazon, my MacBook, and the Anchor website. Anchor is completely free, and it's the easiest way to make a podcast. It has all the tools you need to record and then even edit your podcast straight from your computer or your phone. Then once you're done recording and editing a podcast on the app, you can just upload it straight there and it'll go to Apple, Spotify, Google, and many more places. You can start making money with no minimum listenership, and you get paid for just talking to a microphone, to your cell phone, something you probably do already. It's everything that you need to make a podcast in one place, completely free. So if you've been wanting to start your own podcast, download the free Anchor app in your app store or go to anchor.fm to get started. Again, download the free Anchor app in your app store or go to anchor.fm to get started today. What are you waiting for? Do it. All right, so we're back with Qwayne Guevara. I have some questions about your history in basketball. So, I mean, we talked about it a little bit. Did you play competitively in high school and college, or?
No, so my journey with sports, I actually started with ballet at the age of 5.
Really?
And I did not like ballet. And I told my parents that we need to change this up. At the age of 5, I'm like, this is not working for me. So I asked my dad if my brother and I could do karate. So we did that for a little while. And then it wasn't until I was in year 6, which I'm not too sure what the equivalent would be for you guys. Year 6, is that like middle school? What do you guys?
So. Yeah, middle school. So how old do you guys start like when you start school, how old are you guys usually?
5.
5, so that's like kindergarten. Is that what you call your first year?
Yeah, well, we have
how's it work?
A slang for it, kindy. So we have kindy.
Okay, yeah, kindergarten.
And then kindy to year 6.
Okay.
And then that's primary school, and then we go into high school from year 7 to 12.
Okay, so that's like high school for us. So you combine middle school. So we have kindergarten to 5th grade. Elementary, and we call that elementary school. Right. And then 6 to 8th is middle school or junior high, some places call it. And then we have 9 to 12, which is high school. So
Makes
that's
sense.
I didn't even think of process the potential different ways of you guys doing school. That's awesome.
We drive on the other side of the road, so there's a whole bunch of differences.
I didn't remember that part. To be honest, shows my ignorance to everything.
No, that's totally okay. There's this theory that when Americans were trying to figure out their roads, they didn't want to be associated with the British anymore, so that they were like, okay, screw this, we're driving on the other side of the road.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. That just sounds like the American way.
There's no
that
other
attitude
way.
has kind of gone past that, if that's the case.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh god.
So continue with your basketball.
All right, so year 6 was when I first started playing basketball, and that's when it all started for me, and I in some way it was a little bit different from the girls in my group because they were all really into other things, and I was the only one who was playing sports, but I really felt myself on the court. Sort of the competitiveness was such a I love the fire of being able to go in for layups through guys and take a good screen for a mate, and so
what was your go-to move? What position did you play rather? And then
I've always played a point guard.
Okay.
So I love the thought of being able to control the ball with dribbling.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I love shooting, but if you can figure out dribbling, it's just it feels really cool.
So what's your favorite dribbling move?
Oh, I wouldn't even be able to. So I really enjoy doing, how you're running for a fast break and you have a defender that's standing there and you're sort of it goes behind you so that you can go that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one.
That's behind the back.
They never see it coming.
That's awesome. I love that. My favorite player to watch highlights of is Jason Williams. And he just, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen his highlights where he goes like, he has this famous pass where like elbow pass where he bounces. And like,
cool.
And he like elbows it and it goes that way instead of
Oh
that
yeah,
way.
I've seen that happen.
So it
That's
goes,
cool.
Boom. Oh, like, oh, so cool. Love that move. I remember there was like a time in my life where I was in my backyard trying to get that, but I was too wide for the whole elbow thing.
Yeah, this is really awkward.
This is really not working
It's
out
not
for my
doing what I
body
want.
type. This is like Shaq trying to do like a crossover.
That's rough. Oh goodness.
Anyway, so
But yeah, so that's basketball.
that's awesome. Did you were you an NBA fan at all? Or were you an NBL fan? Or
So
did you not like sports like that way?
Oh, I think part of the reason why I got really into sports was I think my dad. So he would often play Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls games on the TV, and I think I was just really fascinated by the way he would play the game. And I don't really follow NBA religiously, but I have followed teams. So I have a sentimental attachment to the Chicago Bulls because they were my entry point into basketball.
Right.
But in the past, the period of time that the Spurs were doing really well, they were so good to watch. When Kawhi was on the team and they had Duncan and it's painful to reminisce or...
It hurts because I remember the time when we were like Miami won against them in 2013 and get our back-to-back, and we were up for our three-peat.
Three-peat, yes.
And that it hurt to hurt so much. It's just like I'm watching the game like they're just destroying us. They're so good. I just wanted to cry.
It was so good.
And then LeBron laughed, and I was like, "This is terrible! Damn you, Kawhi!" But they were playing some amazing basketball then, so it's just like
they were like goals when it came to teamwork.
Did you see? I mean, they just ran around circles around Miami and just like blew them out. It was like
that's it.
No chance.
Yeah, they came back wanting. They were so determined.
Oh yeah, after that loss, I mean, can you imagine? That Game 6 loss in 2013 was probably like the worst thing they ever experienced.
Devastating.
And now they're all retired, except for Kawhi. Anyway,
He's Kawhi.
Kawhi. So you also have a coffee shop, is what I hear. You told me that earlier. So tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, so we're a little coffee shop. So I started it with a really close friend of mine, and we're called Young Lions Cafe. We're situated in this really, we're super local. So we grew up in this area of Sydney that's really become our home and our community. And we thought there's definitely no other place that we'd like to start this off than in the Blacktown. Oh. What's that? Google or Siri? Or what else? Alexa? What else do you guys all I think Alexa wants this whole podcast to end right now.
I tell her every night at 12:30 to shut my lights off because sometimes sometimes like tonight I fall asleep before I'm supposed to turn, and I forget to turn the lights off, so she does it for me.
Right.
And she tells me good night at the same time. She's like, nighty night.
That's so nice of her.
Alexa, lights on in the bedroom, please.
Oh, you're so polite. Use your manners.
Hey, listen, if she takes over the world, I don't want to be on her list.
That's a conspiracy theory. Okay,
definitely.
I'll vibe with that.
Good content.
Oh god.
So you're saying, so go on about, I don't know. Sorry, I got distracted. I don't remember what we were talking about.
I don't know what we were
I know it was like
talking
coffee, coffee shop.
Oh yeah, it's the coffee shop. Yeah, so the coffee shop's actually inspired by our experience in youth ministry. So we've always sort of used to have what we call one-to-ones or one-on-ones over coffee with people, sort of catch up and get to know someone, or when we, just see how someone's going and be like, yeah, we want to grab a coffee. And the coffee culture in Australia is huge. Like
really?
It's not, I mean, Starbucks tried to do their thing here a couple of years ago and it just didn't mesh with our culture.
Really?
And so there's the clash is that for us, the cafe culture is quite local. It's very community oriented and not sort of the transactional on the go. Okay, here's your drink and we'll leave now. Yeah. It's really a space where people sit down and have chats, catch up, brunch, you take your family there and you spend like a couple of hours. So
that's awesome.
So that's what we wanted to create, because that's our experience in getting to know each other and building friendships.
So how did you go about, like, is there like a business? Is this like a whole like thing, or is it like, were you renting out the equipment? Did you hire people? Is this everything? Like, is this all that you have to worry about?
No, so my background's in law, and to some extent that was helpful. Yeah. My friend's background is in marketing, sort of area of media content. So both of us sort of had this idea that we had to start from scratch. But the cool thing about youth ministry, and I think this is pretty, it doesn't get the hype that it needs, that actually when you're in youth ministry, there are so many transferable skills that you develop as a youth leader that you can actually use in other areas of your life. So for us, it was really channeling the organizational skills, the resourcefulness, the curiosity of wanting to start a business into this particular project, and asking ourselves, okay, so this is what we want. Here's the goal. How do we get there? What are the resources available to us? What do we need to find out so that we can make this happen? And so at the root of all of it is really community, and in some way an entry point to conversations and friendships that we hope maybe not so obviously, but it might plant a seed even in our customers or the community that we've developed. That later, when they see the joy that we have in our team, and mind you, we have an extraordinary team. They're all young, vibrant, faithful Catholics who are striving in their own faith. Right. And so as business owners, to create a culture of a ministry of hospitality, they've just really taken it on board. So cool. It's something that we see as an opportunity perhaps in the future to expand, but as of now we're still learning. We've sort of been open for 2 years, so a lot has changed, and particularly with COVID we've been hit pretty hard. Sure. But there's definitely still the joy and hope in still creating opportunities for encounter there. So it's been a journey and it's been awesome.
That's really awesome. Like that's not so unique, right? So like I was asking you like, oh yeah, so you do basketball, whatever. What else do you do? And then you're like, yeah, I own a coffee shop. I'm like, what? that's huge. That's awesome. Like, but that's a great idea. And like, and utilizing that and learning that, and then and kind of in a way that is ministerial, I think is a beautiful thing. And I mean, we have like I meet with a lot of my youth ministers that I'm friends with, like to kind of catch up and talk about ministry over some coffee or food. And so like it's not, I don't know if it's like the same. I wouldn't call it the same culture, but we do utilize Starbucks cafes a lot. As like good places for connection too. Still, like I met some of my young adults there all the time. When I do ministry with them, I kind of just like sit down with some coffee, and I'm not like a big coffee person. Look, I'm not like I'm not huge on it, but I'll drink it if I actually do need it, so I don't create an addiction in myself. Because I do have an addictive personality, I feel like. So like,
oh my gosh, I'm totally the same.
Yeah,
my friends will tell you that I have this terrible addiction, and thank the good Lord that we have restrictions, because for some reason about a year and a half ago I got really into skill testers.
Oh really?
It's how random, right? And so I walk past like arcades and my friends would be like, we know what you're thinking about. And I'd be like,
that's so funny.
But yeah, coffee can have that, that it can get you addicted pretty quick.
And I just don't want to spend that much money on it. So like, but I do love cold brew. Like if I have coffee, it's cold brew. Like, and nice. So I finally got myself a cold brew coffee maker. And so like days and when I'm waking up, and I'm like groggy for work, I'll just have a cup and whatever. But it's nice to have. So,
That's cool.
what is your favorite way of having coffee? Like, what's your favorite like cup?
I take a soy flat white.
Oh wow, look at you. That's fancy.
Is that you?
I just have it black. So it's just like nothing I do is fancy. You just saw me have a peanut sandwich, a peanut butter sandwich.
Yeah, that's your dinner.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the fun fact that you guys actually call, is it an Americanos?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we call them a long black here.
A long black?
Yeah, long black. So
Wow.
it's basically water with a shot of espresso.
Yeah, yeah.
But
see, I love coffee shop aesthetics. I love them, but I don't drink coffee enough. I just go there for the Wi-Fi. And if I get something, like, it's usually a cold brew, or like if I don't need it, then I have something else. So how has your ministry in like youth ministry affected or like influenced your relationship in Christ?
yeah, that's a cool question, actually. Right. And I think we often, as youth leaders, or perhaps I can go even broader, as missionaries, we often go to a mission area, or we go and begin a journey with a young person, thinking that we're going to change their life or like bring them closer to the Lord, or dispel any misconceptions that they have about the faith and bring them to the truth, and just we're the ones who are going to figure them out.
Right.
And often I think in many ways as missionaries, if you were to go overseas or some project locally where you're dealing with the vulnerable or disadvantaged, the marginalized, you'll often think that you're going to help them. But as we know through our own experience, a lot of the times the Lord humbles us and we realize how much we actually get from being in this sort of work.
Right.
To just be reminded, particularly when working with young people, our own littleness, how much we are a child of God. And I think that's sometimes really hard for us as youth leaders to be reminded that we're small. But if there's a message that particularly in the last couple of years, that I've really felt from the Lord in my time in youth ministry, is to recognize our humanness, just what it means to be human. Right. And I love that. I think it's Saint Irenaeus, correct me if I'm wrong, who says that the glory of God is man fully alive.
I think so. I mean, that's Jarrell's The Living Person's like quote through and through.
Is it?
That's where
cool.
The Living Person that came through.
I think that's him. Bishop Barron talks a lot about that too. I really love Bishop Barron. I think he's amazing. He's been a real light in my own life. But to know that we are human is to realize that we're obviously not God. And so this truth actually brings to light just how great God is. And that happens to me so often in youth ministry. Yeah. Especially when I want everything to go my own way, or I've organized a particular project, or I've dreamed up this what I think is the best new thing. Right. And then when you offer it to God, He makes it something much more than you can possibly have dreamed of.
Yeah.
So,
it is also to affirm you. Yeah, it is Saint Irenaeus. I just had to Google it real quick, but to double check. But yeah, it's so true. I mean, like ministry, I feel like whenever especially when I've done mission trips, I feel like like obviously you don't just throw an unknowing like person into to mission right away. Like, like you have to have some sort of encounter already and to go serve. And so, but like when I first went on my first mission trip, like I already had that encounter. I've already started to grow, and I wanted to serve. And so like this, I learned more. I felt like in doing mission, like the mission trips that I've done, nowhere outside of like I didn't leave Florida for these mission trips either. Like these were like in Miami, helping out at a parish that was very like poverty stricken, and we worked with the kids for summer camp, and those kids taught me so much more about my faith and who I was as an identity than I was able to learn in any of my theology classes. And not to say that anything bad about my theology classes, but the theology classes taught me more intellectual things than, but they taught me like the simplicity of being a Catholic, a Christian as a child. And it's just like, so good. So when you were saying that, I was like, yes, everything, ditto.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's crazy. Like when we think about leadership in the church, I think there's a lot of, I mean, like the outside world has a particular perception about the way that the church is structured without fully understanding that a call to leadership is a call to actual service. It's a laying down of one's life, which is totally not about us.
Oh yeah. And so like, I think for us as youth leaders, it's a constant having to remind myself, it's not about me. Right, it's for the glory in the kingdom of heaven. If he wants me, I'll be here as long as he wants me to be here. If he calls me to do other things, I'll go do other things. But this is where I super feel called to, and I roll with the punches. I go with where I follow where he leads me. You know,
totally.
and just like this Sunday's readings are on John 10 verses 1 to 10. And it talks about the sheep follow the shepherd because they know his voice and they follow, right? And so like it's our job as sheep to like really know where the Lord's calling us, to leading us and go where he wants us to follow, to lead us through that gate, which he claims himself, I am the gate where the sheep will go through. And obviously that's not word for word, but it's just really like, as our job as youth ministers to kind of really understand that, I feel, and it can be easily, the devil can easily come into us and try to make us feel that it is about us, or without us, these kids don't come back to the church or come to the church. Like, no, they will, because God is real, not because of your selfishness,
Yeah, totally. And I think you're right about intention, like people's intentions when serving. I think we can recognize the fruits of someone's heart from the works that they do, but I think the Lord really takes what we do and makes it beautiful. But I often wonder, I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with knowing who God is so that we can know who we are. And that comes from a life of prayer. And I think you can set, like, if we're not prayerful, if we're not inviting the Lord to speak to our hearts, it's often very difficult for us to have the purest of it. I mean, like, we can't always have the purest intentions. In many cases we're human, and so there will be times where it's not super where we want it to be. But prayer, I think, is such a huge element that we often we can often forget in service and ministry. Yeah,
often. And so like that's why I'm like, I think it's really important for us people in ministry to constantly remind ourselves and constantly be in prayer about that. This prayer that I love is right here. I have it on my handy dandy journal. I'll read it to you. It says, Father, I abandon myself into your hands. Do with me what you will. Whatever you may do, I thank you. I am ready for all, and I accept all. That only your will be done in me and all your creatures. I wish no more than this, O Lord. Into your hands I commend my soul. I offer it to you with all the love in my heart. For I love you, Lord, and so need to surrender myself into your hands without reserve and with boundless confidence. For you are my Father. Amen. And like that one's just like, a complete self-offering, like reminding, like I like to start the day off with that because it reminds me like, oh yeah, this is for you. I'm surrendering myself to you, like a beautiful act of surrender, and reminding myself like this is for your glory, not of my own, And so
that's beautiful.
Yeah. Last couple questions here. What is your goal for the rest of the year in ministry? Like given what we have, been given, what we've been dealt with here in the beginning of 2020.
Oh, what a question. You know, it's funny because we make all these plans and then COVID comes along and we had, let me smash that out of here because we had a whole bunch of things planned for youth ministry for our dioceses this whole entire year, and we've every year we do what we call a Good Friday night walk, where we start at 10 p.m. at night and we end at our cathedral at 6 a.m. in the morning.
That's awesome.
And it's about a 20-kilometer walk, and for the last couple of years we've been getting about 1,000 young people come and walk, and we stop at different parishes along the way, and each has its own flavor. So perhaps so last year we did I think it was a rosary. So every single parish had a rosary that they would animate. The year before we did stations. The year before I think it was on mercy, and so that didn't happen this year because of COVID.
Yeah.
So I mean, to answer your question, I think this time of rest and reflection has been really good for me, because at a personal level, it's really allowing me to reevaluate some of my own desires and projects that I've been thinking about for a really long time. And I think what's been really cool is that I've been able to play around with things like this new microphone that our youth office got it only a few weeks ago, or some lighting equipment, and it's really exploring different ways of being creative with the content to make it relevant to our young people now. So my hope is that I don't get discouraged. I think when we get confident in a particular skill, sometimes the devil likes to make us question our intentions and make it seem like that we're doing it for ourselves. So my hope is that my intentions remain pure, that I continue to serve in response to his abundant providence in my own life.
Right.
And hopefully with that, we can sort of start to see a new generation of young people really taking on the call to holiness in these times.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. That's a really good reflection. I mean, like, hopefully, like, obviously we've been giving so much time to do, those reflections, and it's good to use that again to kind of reevaluate, to kind of take that step back, and it's a beautiful opportunity for us to kind of really understand our faith in a different way, and how we should go about things, So
I mean, I'll expose myself a little because I just a couple of weeks. I mean, I had been on TikTok, but I have really decided to explore TikTok for this millennial who, whatever, I feel very attacked by Generation Z when I'm on there. But I'm starting to see more millennials on there, so I'm being a little bit more comfortable with putting out some content and trying it out. So it's new territories, but I think this is, in many ways, the mission areas that we're being offered to explore.
Yeah, I've been, guilty as charged too. I was, me and my other podcast, Off the World, my friend Tanya and I decided that we were going to go on TikTok and try to promote our podcast through TikTok. And, so we got on there, and I do most of the TikToking, and she will post once every other, I don't know. She never posts. I called her out on it last week. I was like, you need to post more. And I was like, so we're working on that. It'll be fun. It's I have a couple of things that work and don't work. And it's but TikTok, I was looking at it. They're it's built for any random person to be able to go viral.
Yeah.
And so that's what makes it so attractive for some people who are trying to chase that, that viral thing, that chasing that being famous on it. That's what makes it addicting for them, because anybody can do it. It's just a randomized. So they work and they make it carry and create more content for the hope of getting that chance to be that viral person, and that's what makes it so addicting.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I listened to this guy, and I probably won't recommend him, but he's He's super good at all this stuff. Gary Vaynerchuk. I should probably not plug him in this podcast, but he has really great insights into things like social media and engagement. And he says the return on investment on creating content as frequently as for those who want to be spreading their service or product or podcast around, the return on that investment is actually people's attention. And that's what people are competing for on these platforms is people's attention. And so especially with our young people whose attentions are actually on these platforms, I think in some way we shouldn't judge these platforms as, oh, okay, it's taking them away from, face-to-face relationship. I think if we're really supposed to recognize the signs of the times, I think we should see it for what it is and find ways to invite our young people from that initial encounter with you, perhaps it is on Instagram or TikTok or whatever it might be, into an actual face-to-face encounter. So I think it's just asking us to be a little bit more creative with ministry.
Yeah, I think that's what, I think ministry is like kind of like that all the time, like big event and then into small groups, right? Big gatherings and then you try to get them into a smaller group, whether it's one-on-one or a small group setting, and then that's how you build that relationship. You know, you can't just continue to go to big events and expect that relationship to build, right?
Totally.
With the Lord.
Yeah.
Like if you're just chasing a retreat high at that point, you know? So you go to a big retreat and then you come to a small group, and then that's where your relationship, not just with others, but with Christ, like that's where that's built, you know? And so that's the idea in the ministry, like the ministry that, that has been kind of revealed to me as time has gone on here. It doesn't, my time in ministry rather, it doesn't just happen like that. It doesn't happen through just like, hey, look, this is the teachings of the church, like, and this is what the traditions of the church are. That's not all. That's not gonna speak to a heart of a child either, to anyone really. I mean, yeah, some people can come back to the faith through facts and through traditions. I'm not gonna bypass that, but that's not the norm, right? So,
that's
big
awesome.
events, small youth groups.
Totally relate.
Right. So last question here. What is your message to people in ministry right now? As a minister as somebody in ministry in Australia, for everyone around the world who might be listening, who is in ministry, what is your message out to them for the rest of the year to keep them encouraged?
So I was thinking about this. I don't know why I felt like you were going to ask me this question. I mean, you had prompted me, but prior to that, I think it's perhaps because it's often a question that I ask other people. You know, what's your message that you want to share with others? Right. I think the Spirit is really inviting me to encourage young people, or perhaps anyone in ministry, to be courageous enough to be seen completely, and not just, the stuff that you might see online or whatever you show to your friends and family, even the wounds that you hide in dark places. The scariest things that we can do, one of the scariest things that we can allow ourselves to be is to be seen, because that requires crazy vulnerability. Right. But I think when we allow ourselves to slowly practice the art, and I think it is a bit of an art to allow ourselves to be seen, that vulnerability, that's when really interesting stuff happens. That's when our hearts expand, our dreams get wider, bigger, deeper, all of it. I think the horizon gets, it's insane what happens when we allow the Lord to really see us in our vulnerability and to allow us to be healed. I think that's what's so crazy in many ways when I look at the crucifix, is that our Lord is our role model to vulnerability. He's got nothing on that cross. Right. And so if our Lord can be vulnerable, in many ways, what's stopping me from being vulnerable? So perhaps that's some encouragement for us to enter into prayer, particularly in this time where we do have the pleasure of having, this time to be with our Lord, to take some time to really ask ourselves, what haven't we yet allowed the Lord to shine his light into in our own lives?
That's so good. I mean, I was sharing it with a friend of mine. I shared it the last Q&A that we had. One of the questions that was asked was, my spiritual director asked something similar. It's like, what is God trying to heal in your heart during this quarantine? And I'm just like, excuse you.
Wait a minute. Why are we having this conversation?
Who asked you?
You're offended. He's trying to help you out.
It's like my spiritual director, who I see like monthly, to ask me these questions. Excuse you.
He's probably like, wait a minute, isn't that what you want?
Yeah, he's like a retired priest. He's so awesome. He's so spirit led. So yeah, that's been something I've been trying to wrestle with in myself. And what you're speaking about, vulnerability, like I preach that almost in every podcast. That's why I do these those. I mean, I don't know if you saw the testimony from last week, the most recent testimony that we had. Like I preach like C.S. Lewis's like Four Loves. He wrote, to love at all is to be vulnerable. And then he said, if you don't want your heart to break, if you're vulnerable, your heart will be wrung and possibly broken. But if you don't want it to be broken, like lock it up in a casket of your selfishness, like hide it in your heart, and in that, like it won't like cover it up with like hobbies and things like that. Oh man, it like, yeah, like we do that. How often do we do that? Like try to like put that in a coffin so it doesn't get hurt, you know, because we're afraid of it. But that's what comes with vulnerability. It takes so much to just be able to admit to these things, to like to face these things, and it sucks. But man, like the gifts from being vulnerable are huge. And if we're called as Christians to love people, and if vulnerability in like a love requires vulnerability, then why aren't we all being vulnerable? You know what I mean? So. Yeah, I love that. I didn't plan that. I mean, I like literally for my like avid listeners, they know that I never like almost in every other podcast I'm talking about vulnerability in some sort, some way, shape, or form. And so like that was not planned.
It's the spirit.
It's the spirit.
110%.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
So do you have any the last thing there is like, do you have any shout outs, like Instagram shout outs you want to kind of shout out towards people to kind of look at? Or it doesn't have to be Instagram, but it can be like anything. Like what are things that you want my listeners to go check out? I'm going to add it in the show notes and description and stuff.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so I guess it's really the work that we're doing as Young Lions Cafe. There's a community of us who have also started a bit of a hub in our local area, which has a basketball court, a coffee bar, and some common spaces for people to come and hang out. And it's called the Hustle. So that's another thing.
You have like Instagrams also for all of these too, I believe, right? Yeah,
it's on my account. So if you're curious at all, just come find me at Qwayne Guevara. So that's Qwayne Guevara. But yeah, I think if there's anything that I would encourage you to do is try and find the social media. This is the really cool part about this time. The social media the accounts that a lot of our young people are starting because they have all this time. So whether it's music or art, I'm just seeing a lot of people pumping out some really cool stuff. So it's worth having a look at what they're doing.
I think it's such a beautiful time for creativity, and you're just seeing so many people create, and I just love, because creation and art is just so, it speaks to how we were, you know, who we are as, you know, creations and art that, you know, God created us to, and artists that God created us to be. So it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I was I think I mentioned that I was just in a Zoom meeting last night talking about rest, and the priest said that rest is closely related with creation, just like God, who rested when he was creating the world. And so I don't think that it's a coincidence that because we are having this time to rest, we are becoming incredibly creative right now.
That's so cool. Wow, good point. That's so great. Qwayne, thanks for coming on. Thanks for, you know, like reaching out and chatting with me. And, you know, that's what originally got us talking about you coming onto the podcast and, you know, adding this awesome aspect of recording with someone across the freaking world. It's so cool.
No, I really love my time. So thank you for having me on your show, and I love the work that you're doing. So please keep going,
you.
and I'll definitely be keeping you in my prayers.
Please do. Please pray for the listeners, those who are watching, listening, however they are. Hopefully it touches. I mean, the whole point of the podcast is just sharing thoughts and experiences with other people, but also like right now, this whole month of May is just like helping people have joy and something to listen to kind of like bring them out of, this rut and kind of like cope with stuff, and also be able to have joy in those moments. So like that's why we're doing games. That's why we're doing the 5-Minute Fridays. That's why I'm pumping out like 3 episodes a week
Cool.
this month. It's just to just for this month to kind of help people like in some way. Hopefully, I mean, obviously, like how magnanimous does that try to make me sound like, oh, I'm so like I'm like this. My content's gonna help you get through COVID, but that's not that's not the idea. It's just a matter like, hey, if you are a listener and you want to listen to something fun, this is something lighthearted, and you without being we get serious too, but it's something. It's a lot of good stuff. Good content for anybody. So. I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on, and please continue to pray, like I said, for those listening. And if they want to follow you, right? It's a Qwayne Guevara.
That's it.
Your name spelled out, and
that's my name.
So it'll be in the show notes. If you're listening on, I think on Apple, you can click right on her name and it'll go straight to her profile and stuff like that. Otherwise, you'll just have to. If you're listening on Spotify, you're just gonna have to pop that into your Instagram. Everything she shouted out will be there. If you want to follow us on Apple, if you want to follow the podcast on Instagram and you're not already, it's at Living Ardently. It'll all be down here. If you're watching on YouTube, it'll be all down here. Living Ardently is the podcast account. I have some really great writers, and they're writing some amazing stuff. So make sure you go follow that and read those quotes on those reflections, because they're just a bunch of friends of mine who are just completely gifted and, very authentic writers. And I told them, hey, I mean, they're not even like writers by heart. They're just like, hey, you want to share a reflection over some quotes weekly? And they're like, yeah, sure, why not? And so it's a beautiful thing. So go check those out. If you want to follow my personal life, go to It's Only Adrian. You get a bit of my goofiness, my fun stuff, the TikToks that I make there. They always usually make it there. And if you want to, it'd be great if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or wherever, like Apple Podcasts, please like leave a review and a rating. It does help me a lot. It does help the podcast a lot. If you're listening on Spotify, go anywhere else. Just make sure you're following, subscribe, so you know when we're posting these episodes, because now we're posting 3 times a week. So remind you of that. And if you're not following us on YouTube, we have a video component to this video. It might be up right as it uploads. Might be up later on. But make sure you go on YouTube and subscribe and watch the video content if you want that as well. It's really cool. You get to see a little bit of the things that I have a lot of quirks that I do while I'm like talking, and it's just really funny. So like if you want to see some of that, or maybe sometimes it's a little extended, I don't edit it as much, so go check that out. There's a little bit bonus and incentive for you to go subscribe to our YouTube channel. So I think that's all I got. If you want to support the podcast in any way, we are taking we don't have a Patreon, but there's a link.
I thought you were gonna say it.
Yeah. But eventually we might start. I'm just checking it out. I do have Anchor does have an option for you guys to support the podcast, whether it be $1 a month or $4 or $5 or $10, whatever you're able to do. If you want to, it'll be cool. Everything will go straight into the podcast. But honestly, you guys listening helps me a huge time. So share this podcast with somebody, share with a friend, share this episode with your loved ones, and let them listen and enjoy with us. So thanks everybody. Do you have anything last things to say?
Me?
Yeah. No, the listeners.
Oh yeah. Do you guys out there have anything else to say? Because I think Adrian would love to hear. Yeah. Here's a number to call.
Oh yeah, if you want to leave. Thanks for reminding me. If you want to leave a Q&A question, please send it to our Gmail. or you can send a voice question by going to the link in our description if you want to send a voice memo question for next Q&A with Jarrell. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Super dope.
Well, hopefully see you guys in maybe Adrian, next time we're allowed to fly out of our own countries. Might see you in Sydney sometime.
I mean, that was always the goal. There's this meme I need to show you.
Okay.
It was like travel plans, expectation, reality, and it was the theater in Sydney.
As in the opera house?
The opera house, yeah.
Right.
And then instead it was like replaced with a load of dishes.
Oh man, people are good. Oh my gosh.
I was like, where is this? I don't know if I have it, but if I find it on YouTube, you'll see the meme right here. So funny, so ridiculous. It like looked, I was like, what's different? And I looked closer. I was like, oh, that's a load of dishes.
That's so good.
So funny. All right, Qwayne. Thanks again. Thank you.
No
you were
problem.
awesome. You're great. Thanks for putting up with my oversleeping.
No worries. I'm glad you're well rested now.
Thanks. Now I'm gonna be up for the rest of the night.
Awesome.
God bless you all. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I hope it helped you in some way, shape, or form, if anything. And until next week, until Friday, keep living ardently. Peace.